Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of a Frugal Athlete podcast. Today, we got a very special guest, someone I'm very pleased to introduce you guys to, DP Knudten, who has taken the wonderful time to share his story, share a little bit about his background, but most importantly, how athletes can properly brand themselves. DP, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
No, most definitely. I know your schedule is very busy, but happy Thanksgiving first and foremost.
Yeah, to you too.
Yeah, so just wanted to get that out there. So for people that may not know you, because I know we just recently met, um, give us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, well, okay, so I'm old, literally old. If you can see this live, you can see I've got a little bit of gray hair both on my head and in my beard. And it's well-earned gray hair because I've worked in advertising and marketing for just around 30 years. And I've seen everything go from the days of 30-second TV spots on 3 broadcast channels, ABC, CBS, and NBC, and that was it,
Mhm.
to everything is media, everything is always on, and everything is available to you to build and boost your personal brand 24/7, 365, free of charge. I mean, think about that. All the social media channels out there are absolutely free. Now, there are, of course, paid levels to many of them, but I'll be honest with you, I pay $0 for any of them because if I can get 80% of the cow, I'm not going to buy the cow when I'm getting 80% of the milk for free, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, most definitely. So what was your, like, how did you get into it? Because I know a lot of people, especially from the sports business standpoint, the sports media space, they're looking, how can I get into the advertising? How can I get into media? So what was your introduction like when you first started?
Well, it's a roundabout way, which I think most people's careers are rarely flat linear these days.
Uh-huh.
It's you start one place, you end up another, you get an opportunity, you take advantage of that opportunity. That certainly happened with me because when I graduated college, I graduated with a degree in theater. I wanted to be an actor, and actors are not unlike athletes. You've got a period of time where you better make it big or you just grind it out as long as you can.
Yeah.
And, during what I call my nebulous 20s, when I was 20-year-old to about 30 years old, I did everything from improvisational comedy to on camera work to voiceover work, everything. And I was exposed to bad advertising writing. I mean, when you have to go in and do a 60-second radio spot that has 75 seconds worth of copy, you know there's a problem there. And when you're reading it, you're going, wait a minute, I can write better than this. And I kept seeing these scripts and I'm going, I can write better than this.
Yeah.
And that kind of planted a seed in my head. Well, if acting doesn't work out, maybe there's a plan B in the form of advertising and marketing. And that's a whole long story. I tell it in my book, Nonfiction Brand. But let's just suffice to say that I was able to start as at a very entry level copywriter position, rapidly climb the ranks within the creative department at ad agencies. I've worked in Denver, Colorado, Chicago, Illinois, Atlanta, Georgia, and Madison, Wisconsin. Right outside Madison is where I live.
Mhm.
And I've been able to have that career because I can write better than that.
That's what it's
And
all about.
yeah, exactly. And I aligned myself with one of my key talents and then found the venue or the industry sector that appreciated those talents enough to actually pay for them. So that's how I stumbled into this career that now is going on like 30 years.
No, I love that you said that, you aligned your talents with people that were willing to, see value in your work and your skill set. And I feel like a lot of times with athletes, we're so used to, well, our only skills are on the field or the court, but that's not true. You have to explore it like you did. You were in a lane, doing improv comedy, doing different things. And you were like, wait, I like this as well. I feel like I'm good at this as well. And now you've built a great career. So I think that's great advice for athletes. But before we get into everything personal brand, everything money management for athletes, I want to ask you about your book. We're going to have that definitely in the show notes. Make sure you guys get that if you guys want to learn more about DP. But please share the synopsis of the book.
Sure. Well, number one, if you're watching the live stream, it looks exactly like this. Nonfiction brand, discover, craft, and communicate the completely true, completely you brand you already are. And this, of course, is available on Amazon just about everywhere around the world, which, again, I am self-publishing this book. Even though it says it's put out by Collaborator Publications, guess whose Collaborator Publications? I am. So
Respect.
exactly, and even I'm still holding up the cover of the book because my photo is on the cover of the book. Why?
Brand
Well,
everything.
brand everything, brand myself, and the fact is, the author of the book is going to have their photo in the book someplace. Why not put it front and center? Because that's exactly what personal branding is about. It's about putting yourself front and center, and stepping into what I like to call your personal brand spotlight. Because a lot of people don't do that. A lot of
Mhm.
people sit back, they wait to be recognized. And boy, I was terrible about that. I expected to be playing guitar at a coffee shop someplace, and some record exec was going to come in, discover me, and give me a multi-album deal and make me the next whoever. Guess what? That doesn't happen. Or when it does, it's so rare that it is literally worthy of remark, making it remarkable. Justin Bieber, discovered on YouTube. That's a great story that is worthy of remark because it never happens.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you've got people who have been grinding out pro level careers forever, and then suddenly they're discovered. Like, I'm a big fan of acoustic guitar music and singer songwriters.
Great studio setup, by the way. I just want to add that.
Oh,
I
thank
gotta
you.
raise the level. I'm in my
Yeah.
room right now.
Well, exactly, and we can talk about that. But I wanted to tell you the story of someone who, what was it, 2 3 years? I think it was 2 years ago. Won like 6 Grammys in the Americana singer songwriter space. Her name's Brandy Carlisle. You now can see her everywhere all the time, and she spent 15 years becoming an overnight sensation. She literally was grinding it out, leveling up a little bit at a time, from coffee shops to bars to venues of 150 people maybe, to larger theaters, to arenas, not necessarily sports arenas, but I mean performance arenas.
Yeah,
Like, depending on where you are in the country, you've probably got that venue where all the touring acts go to play.
that's true.
she
Yep.
she's now filling that place, but it took her 15 years to become an overnight sensation. And she's been doing the same thing for 15 years. She hasn't suddenly become a pop diva or a hip hop artist. That's not her lane. That's not her style. That's not who she is. She's been playing acoustic based singer songwriter music with telling stories via ballads and stuff like that. It's the stuff that doesn't get radio play,
Yeah.
but she's built up a fan base that is global and now recognized by the Grammys because she is as fantastic as her talent allows her to be. And that's pretty darn incredible. So she's a great example of a personal brand that didn't get discovered overnight or didn't come out with a logo with their name
Yeah.
and become something. She built it over time in everything she does in a way that is completely aligned with who she actually is.
No, I love that. So let's bring it home with athletes because
Okay.
athletes, obviously we know about the star athletes, and that's like building a brand based off their play. But there's so many different athletes in the world. What I loved about your book, Nonfiction Brand, is going to be in the show notes. Make sure you guys get a copy. Completely you, completely true. How can athletes follow that mantra, and what are some steps to get to that stage in their personal brand journey?
Okay, well, I've been thinking about this a little bit because I'll be honest with you. I am not a rabid sports fan. I have nothing against it. It's just I'm more of a music fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has to pick what's true to them. But I started thinking about it, going, you know what? I wonder how many athletes, because I always hear about XYZ athlete has their own foundation. And then I looked up and I noticed that you've got the OK You Go foundation that you've started for yourself, which I applaud you for. There's nothing wrong with coming up with a self named foundation that essentially boosts your personal brand, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
great. But then I started thinking about someone who's, again, not an athlete, but an artist or an actor, and I've always admired the fact that the actor Denzel Washington has been a huge supporter of Boys and Girls Clubs because he was a Boys and Girls Club kid.
Yeah.
He gives money like you wouldn't believe. He supports Boys and Girls Club because he's given back to the thing that brought him up, gave him the foundation so that he could eventually have a foundation. You know,
Mm-hmm.
before you can build your own foundation, you've got to have a strong foundation based on the character things that make you who you are.
Yep.
I've always been impressed about that because it makes a great story. If there was, and I'm sure there is, a Denzel Washington Foundation someplace, I don't know, don't care. The story that sticks in my head is the Boys and Girls Club story because, oh wow, he was a kid who stayed off the streets and was introduced to theater and acting in Boys and Girls Clubs while playing, sports and games and learning after school and stuff like that. Wow, that
Yeah.
organization is cool. That story is cool. The fact that those two major brands, both Denzel Washington and Boys and Girls Clubs, are linked together in a story, both brands are boosted by it.
Yep.
Boys and Girls Clubs, a cooler, more viable charitable foundation or charitable organization because it's associated with Academy Award winner Denzel Washington. And Denzel Washington is a much more grounded, believable, real person because he's associated with this very hardworking charitable brand.
Yep.
So brand plus brand equals a fantastic story. So, Moby, if I can give you a little bit of advice, is look at who you completely truly are. Look at your background and say to yourself, are there some charitable foundations that I can associate with or associate my foundation with that will give it more specificity? Because again, I don't want to pick on anyone and I certainly don't want to pick on you, but when I went to your website and I looked at the write up about your foundation, it's a little bit broad, it's a little bit expected, and very not specific. For example, if I help one person who has a name and a story and they succeed, that story resonates with people. However,
Exactly.
if I say, and like, were I to have a charitable foundation, it would be dedicated to literacy. Why? Because I'm a writer. I want people to be able to read. To be dedicated to literacy is to be dedicated to this uh, vast, well, what does that mean? As opposed to, I help kids at my former high school who are having trouble. And it gets very, very specific to who I am. It's not just this, I'm about helping deal with global warming. Well, that's such a big topic. But if you say, I help save polar bears in a specific part of Canada because my family used to have a summer home there, or, I'm from Canada, like if you're a hockey player or something like that, then it takes on a story that people go, oh, that makes sense. And it's very, very specific. Generalities are the death of brands. If you say, I'm for female empowerment, who isn't?
Yeah.
But if you get specific and say, like, I'm really impressed by the charities that collect business wear for women,
Mm-hmm.
and then literally have women who've gone through a work job training program come in and they style them and they say, okay, this clothing, this is for you. Why? It's going to help you get a job. So it's not we empower women. It's no, we put women in the clothes that they can take to an interview and they can crush that interview because they feel powerful, they feel confident, and we aren't giving them money to just go away. We're giving them tools that they can take forward in their lives to create their own success. Because one of the things I've learned a long time ago is if you give out something for free, people look at it and go, yeah, okay, whatever. But if you make them work for it in one form or another, they value it. And therefore, you become more valuable. If you just give stuff away, people can take it or leave it. But
Yeah.
if you make them better because you are working with them like an athlete does, like a coach does, to actually do the hard work, because let's face it, athletes know what hard work is, right?
That's true.
Coaches are there, and you can coach any number of ways, but most of them are there because they want you to be better, but they can't make you better. So the question is, how can they, as coaches with their branding style, how can they make a story for themselves so that when it comes to recruitment time, they've got such a reputation that you've got A+ players lining up to play for them.
Yeah.
Same thing as if you're an individual athlete. You know, one of the things I'm loving right now is I'm binge watching Last Chance U on
Oh,
Netflix.
great. Yeah, great show.
Oh, fantastic show. And I swear that is a masterclass in personal branding or lack thereof.
Yeah.
You've got people on there that are absolutely crushing the personal branding thing, not necessarily in a positive way, but in a powerful way. And then you've got raw potential and you can see it, but they don't focus it in any way so that people can understand who they are, what they are great at, and how they do it. Now, a concept that I write about in Nonfiction Brand is this idea that every brand needs to have a brand handle, or I put a TM on it and call it a brandle. You need to have a brandle, which is the shorthand story about yourself that allows you to pick up this suitcase of everything that you're about, all the
Almost like
details.
a elevator pitch, kind of, huh?
Yeah, it is like an elevator pitch, but it's a little simpler because sometimes an elevator pitch can be very mission statement-y.
Mm-hmm.
Like what I want to know, well, like Amobi, your brandle is I'm a pro athlete who recognizes that pro athlete's lifespan or lifetime is very short. That's why I came up with a concept called the frugal athlete, a frugal athlete. Well, what does that mean? I'm going to say by saying that your podcast and some of your activities are related to a frugal athlete, that implies that there are a lot of athletes who are not frugal.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard the stories. NFL players within 3 years of being out of the league, they're broke. They were not frugal. They had their day in the sun. They burned through the cash that should last them a lifetime, and then they're stuck. A frugal athlete, I'm guessing, because I've not been involved with any of your programs, but I'm guessing that a Moby is all about helping people become and recognize the value of being a frugal athlete, meaning how many seasons do you think you got in you? How much money do you think you can make? What are you going to do with that money to get you through the rest of your life? What are you going to do with the skills you learned that during that period, that season in the sun, that can build the foundation for the rest of your life? Because keep in mind, maybe baseball players can play 20 years, but
Yeah.
nobody else can.
Yeah. Unless you're Tom Brady as well, or LeBron
Yeah,
James.
well,
Yeah, those are
he
anomalies.
yeah, and he's got a fountain of youth in his backyard or something.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I really love what you said about the constructive criticism on my end, because um when you generalize, you don't specialize. The
Yep.
riches are in the niches. And then you
Yep.
said those who pay attention. And it doesn't have to always be compensation from a money standpoint, but pay attention in the sense of, you got to put the time in, you got to put the hard work in. So for an athlete, I think that's very, very sound advice. not only can you apply it on the field, some people are 3-point shooters. Some people know what they do. They set good screens, and they've made their success by honing in on a skill or what they do. And the same holds true for a personal brand and
Yeah.
what you need to do. So with that being said, how can you be authentic to that from the standpoint of, in this world of social media, you got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Does it translate to that as well, or is it specific to just how I present myself online, offline, in person, socially as well?
Okay. Well, let me put it this way. If we were to meet and get to know each other, you would learn 90% more about me. But online, you're going to find out that I only promote my central pillar of that I'm standing for, which is the whole nonfiction brand idea. Uh, I wear a black shirt like this everywhere, all the time. These glasses, these frames are Equinox EQ 304s. Why do I know that? Because I bought 20 pairs of them. So that as my prescription changes over the years, I can keep the same glasses because one, I like them. I like the way they fit my face. I've had terrible luck with glasses since I've
Yeah,
first started getting glasses when at age 35. I'm now well beyond that and have a new prescription every couple of years. So I want to be able to have new glasses. So I literally have a box of them right here
hmm,
because I want you, if we were to be in an airport, you're walking from one gate to the other, we've now met each other. If I'm wearing this and looking like this, you just might say, as we cross paths in a concourse, DP, and I'll look at you and go, Amobi. We have recognized each other's brands by what those brands are packaged to look like.
hmm.
And that's one of the key things for people to understand about personal branding. The concept first came out in 1997 in an article written by Tom Peters in Fast Company magazine. And you can still read the article today. Just go to fastcompany.com and search for the brand called you. You can't move up if you don't stand out. Literally, the
Ooh, I
brand
like
called
that.
you. Read that article. The concept that he really points out is that we have, as marketers and advertisers and even consumers, become very familiar with brand advertising or brand messaging for packaged goods. So if I said I'm a Coca Cola guy, when I go to the store to get some soft drinks, I'm not reading any labels. I'm
No,
looking for red, white, and that dynamic ribbon, and I'm grabbing the thing and I'm getting out of that aisle because there's way too much going on. The
that's true.
brand makes it easy for me to figure out which thing I want and to get out fast. So Tom Peters stipulated that individuals now have to do the same kind of brand packaging for themselves so that people can understand very, very quickly who you are, what you do, and how you do it. And then go on to the next step, which is prefer you, not just be aware of you, but prefer you, engage with you because they know exactly who you are, what you do, and how you do it. For example, nobody is ever going to come to me for financial advice. Why? Because that's not what I do. I
Hmm.
like to say that numbers, I think I have an allergy to them because I am great with words, but terrible with numbers. That's okay because that's not where my brand lies.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, someone like, I don't know if you know this name, Susie Orman, she is
Oh yeah,
a,
yeah.
yeah, okay, so a personal finance guru, right? She has swept blonde hair, swept bangs across her forehead. She's always talking about what I would consider absolutely mundane financial concepts. And I don't want to slam her, but I'm just saying, she's not inventing any new recipes.
No.
She's merely saying things like pay yourself first. Take your highest percentage. I'm trying to
Interest
find
rate for
right the
yeah.
highest interest rate credit card you have. Pay that down first. If you've got a card that's at 15% and one at 9%, Don't pay down the 9. Pay down the 9% only enough to make them stay off your back at month to month. But get rid of that 15, then focus on the 9%. Then focus on the 6%. And by doing that, you're stepping down, that's a basic financial concept.
Yeah.
There's nothing new there except who she's talking to, the way she's talking to them, and her personality, her style, and everything else. I don't know much about her, but I do know this. She was a waitress. She had a job from which the idea of buying a house was impossible. She decided that it was not going to be impossible for her. So she started reading Forbes and Inc. magazines and stuff like that. And she learned how to do that. She has created a personal empire based on empowering primarily females, but anybody who's underfunded, or underschooled when it comes to the basics of finance. She's found a way to get them excited about doing things like, I'm not going to buy a $5 cup of coffee. I'm going to put that $5 every week into a fund, a mutual fund, an exchange traded fund. Why? Because I've learned about exchange traded funds and fees and stuff like that. So I'm looking for the she's planting these wonderful financial success seeds, and yet none of those seeds are hers.
Yeah. I like that.
But she presents them. Consequently, if you want financial advice, go to Susie Orman. If you want personal branding advice, go to me. I don't tread on her territory. She doesn't tread on mine. But I
Yeah.
will say this: Susie Orman is one heck of a personal brand.
Yeah. So with that being said, what are some do's and don'ts when it comes to, personal brands? A lot of times you've seen athletes, get themselves in trouble by things that they tweet, how they present themselves, digitally or do something personal. As an athlete, you're not only representing yourself, the brand of you, but your family, your community, your team, your organization, the brands that are sponsoring you. So what are some do's and don'ts that you've seen or that you would recommend from, building out a brand?
Well, athletes are very concerned about what they consume in terms of food, right?
Yeah.
You are what you eat. You want the best whole grains and quality fruits and vegetables and proteins, et cetera, et cetera. And the old saying, you are what you eat, applies directly to Twitter. You are what you tweet.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, more than one person has had their reputation handed to them on a platter because they got involved in a conversation they should not have. Now, let's just take a look at something that's been in the news lately. I'm here in Wisconsin, so we worship God and we worship the Green Bay Packers,
Yeah.
right? And if you are the current reigning MVP of the uh, uh, Green Bay Packers, you're pretty much the king of Wisconsin until you're not, and you get on TV and you lie, you blatantly lie
Yeah.
about what is more or less the most existential crisis facing universally every American, everybody around the world when it comes to COVID-19. Now, you can say that, well, he used the word immunized. He was fully immunized when, instead of saying he was vaccinated. But Aaron Rodgers lied. That is not career ending for him, but boy, it's a black eye. And
Hmm.
he didn't need to make that black eye. Yeah, he should have, and he's got PR people around him that undoubtedly gave him a script, and he went off script. So that's one thing. Getting involved with stuff that you got to be very very careful about. I have a concept that I talk about in the book, Nonfiction Brand, called selective authenticity. What that
Ooh.
means is you're still being authentic about who you are, what you do, and how you do it, but you're selective about what you share. For example, I have 3 daughters. I will not mention their name on this podcast. I don't tweet about them. I don't Facebook about them. I don't do anything about them because they are individuals who are growing. They're going to have their own lives, and I don't want to put any obstacles in their way. Other people, 24/7, all day long, the name of my kids before they're even born, all that stuff. Great. I select not to do that
Yeah.
because it's authentic to me. Because no, you don't need to know that. You don't need to know my business. There
Yeah.
are athletes who people are always looking up online. Are they married? Do they have kids? Because nobody knows. They never bring them up. Why is that? Might be they're protecting them. Might be it's none of your business. Might be it's authentic to me not to bring them up. It's not that I'm ashamed of them. It's that I selectively choose not to bring them into the conversation.
Yeah.
So, for instance, we live in a very, very divided country right now, between, let's just call it red and blue. If you are too blue, you're going to upset potentially 50% of the red country. And if you are too red, you're going to do the same thing on the blue side. And if you're in business, saying goodbye to 50% of your potential buyers of services or people who want to engage with you is not a good strategy. So, yes, I vote. Yes, I have very clear ideas about such things. Do I air those things? I choose not to.
Hmm.
Am I a bad person for not letting you know exactly what I think about any given topic on any given day? Or am I just saving my powder or keeping my powder dry for the stuff that really matters? For instance, let's say that you're very concerned about youth hunger. Great. If it's about youth hunger, bring it up. If it's about new figures about youth hunger, if it's about new solutions for youth hunger, if there's a new product that's coming out that's going to enable NGOs, non-governmental organizations, to get more nutritious foods to youth all around the world, and you want to support that brand or associate with that brand, by all means do, because that's something you're aligning yourself with. But understand, brand alignments are like marriages. If you're going to marry them, you better be darn certain they
Yeah.
aren't going to cheat on you,
That's
or
true.
or that you're going to fail on them. You
Yeah.
know, if what would happen to an athlete who is signed by one of the major shoe companies and they were spotted out wearing a competitor's shoe?
That actually happened with James
It,
Harden. He signed a
it
deal with
happens
Adidas.
all the
Yeah.
time. And what happens?
Yeah.
It depends on
Lose the
how
deal.
big the
Yeah.
people are, but
Yeah, exactly.
it's just like, really, dude, you're that fake?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Like
mean,
you were just
seriously.
doing a commercial with them last week, and then you get spotted by paparazzi wearing a completely direct competitor. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and exactly. So if you say you are one way and prove yourself not to be, that's when people get, man, you are
Yeah.
fake. But if
Yeah.
you are completely true, completely you, I think everybody can dig that. Now, again, I don't know you, Amobi, but in my 2 seconds of research before getting on the horn with you, I see that you grew up in Sacramento,
Yep.
and but you're of Nigerian ancestry.
Yep. Nigerian descent. I'm first generation Nigerian American.
Well, I think right there you've got something that you might want to look into, which is how you would want to support Nigerian Americans, maybe things in Nigeria specifically. Because here's the thing, Americans are so geographically stupid, they don't realize that Africa is a continent with how many countries? 80 some?
Yeah, quite a few. And then
It,
within the countries, it's like you
huge.
have different tribes. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's amazing.
exactly. So, again, what I'm trying to get you to do is think about, how can I be more specific in a way that is specifically me? Okay, now I've got guitars on my wall, right? And you
Hmm.
can see a variety of acoustic guitars and electric guitars. In my heart of hearts, I'm an acoustic guitar player, but I play all guitars, poorly. I just want to stipulate that, poorly. But in my heart of hearts, I'm an acoustic player. I love the sound and all that stuff. That doesn't preclude me from going in other ways. But
Oh,
if I were, say, famous and were able to get a brand of guitars that wanted to associate with me, I would stipulate, okay, guys, I'm not really known as an electric guitar player. It has to be your lines of acoustic guitars. And not only that, I care about guitars. I mean, I'm a guitar nerd. So I want to know exactly the range of guitars that you want to put my name on. And I have to sign off on everything about it, because if people are going to buy that guitar
It's
based on me
associated with
playing
you.
it, you're literally putting my name on it and putting my name on the line, because if it's garbage, that reflects on me.
No, that's true.
And brands die when they don't do two things: when they don't protect their brand, and when they don't project the brand. Meaning, I've got to know who I am so I can be it, and be very, very careful about that. But then I have to project. I have to tell other people. I have to get the word out about that. So again, you were kind of saying, well, what can an athlete do? Choose your tentpole concepts and things like, okay, so Omobi, you've got a frugal athlete, and
Yeah.
you never want to pick on other athletes and stuff like that. But if all of a sudden I followed you on Twitter and you said, did you know that in 3 years, in general, the average NFL player 3 years after retiring is broke, flat busted? That's a problem that is not being currently addressed by any of the pro sports leagues. I would love to have that conversation. Please join me. Wow. How many people know that fact and figure? If you were to curate information like that, especially when somebody gets that big 5-year contract for
Yeah.
huge millions of dollars, that's a great time for a little bit of frugal athlete slap in the face saying, yeah, it's great that this 19-year-old kid coming out of, some junior college is now going to make big NFL money. But the thing is, he needs to understand how dangerous it is, and so it's almost like you're counter programming. Anytime some big number comes up, you say yes. However, there's a challenge there.
That's true.
And because if you're the person who's kind of bringing the cold water, that's going to get the right people to look at you and go, man, because, everybody's going to celebrate the big dollar figure.
Yeah.
But some people are going to go, when you tell them the truth about it, they're going to go, wow, I hadn't thought of that. You're smart. I should talk to you. And by the way, that's completely 100% aligned with this podcast and one of the tentpole concepts that you have associated with your personal brand.
That's what it's all about. It's like you have like a home base and you try to bring everything home.
That's right. And yeah, sometimes sometimes you have to work pretty hard
Yeah.
to complete the circle. Sometimes you don't want to. Sometimes it might just be, man, I love it when I see someone who's worked so hard for all their lives do so well. Just be careful, my friend, because it can all go away.
That's where the
That's just,
protection comes.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, that's why when I heard about your podcast, I was like, I want to talk to this dude,
No, I
because it's a
appreciate that.
really interesting sector. And, I don't know the sector very well, but are those conversations being had?
They're starting to over the past couple years. It really took a big documentary that came out, which is kind of what inspired me. The 30 for 30 broke documentary that kind of highlighted, within 4 to 5 years, over 60% of NBA players, over 70% of NFL players go broke, whether it's due to spending habits, financial distress, identity, um, shady investments, shady advisors, whatever may have you. And it kind of kicked the motion of not only the leagues taking a better effort to educate the athletes, but also the athletes being more proactive. So whether it's through league resources or doing the due diligence, you're starting to see it get better, but it's still a lot of work to be done on all sides. So that's where a Frugal Athlete comes in. That's what we have guests like you come on and share your expertise. And speaking of personal brand, I love what you said about you have to protect and project. But can you talk about the monetization opportunities from establishing a credible, authentic brand that's true to yourself? And everyone sees the big deals, but when you are authentic, you get some really good deals and opportunities as well. So would love for you to speak on that before we let you go.
Well, the key thing there is people will only associate with you, affiliate with you, if you have an audience of enough size and frequency that it's worth getting involved with you, right?
Hmm.
Um, I've just been blown away. I got to share this idea with you, or this thing. It's going on TikTok right now. There's this guy on TikTok named Kyle Sheely, and he went into a Come and Go, which is like a 7-Eleven. If you don't know Come and Go, it's a convenience store chain that's in certain parts of the United States. And he went in one day, and there was a stand up advertisement poster thing for somebody, and I can't remember who it was, but it was some pop star.
Okay.
And he was like, "Oh man, that's cool. When you're done with this, can I have it?" And the guy he was talking to at the store said, "Oh, yeah, they just come in and they just put stuff up. So you want it? Go ahead, take it right now." And so he walked out with this, and then he had this idea because, again, he's a TikToker, so he's always looking for ideas. So he had this idea to come up with what he called the Kyle Sheely meal. And it was him holding a guitar that looks like a pizza slice, and it looks like something you'd see as a promotional item within one of those convenience stores.
Uh-huh.
And so he just walked in with this big, and it was life size, and he's 6 foot or something like
Yeah.
that. So it's huge. It's got him looking goofy, and it says the Kyle Sheely meal, and then just in quotes it says delicious. And he just wanted to see how long it would take them to figure out that it was bogus
Yeah.
and just throw it away. And so on TikTok, the next day he goes in, it's still there. The next day after that, it goes in, it's still there, but they moved it over to a different location. The next day, it's blowing up on TikTok. He's got 2.5 million views on it, and all of a sudden, Come and Go, the actual
Yeah.
marketing department, contact him and say, "Listen, dude, we have to talk." And then Red Bull jumps in saying, "Huh, doesn't a meal like that needs some type of drink, doesn't it?"
Yeah.
So now Come and Go and Red Bull are coming out with, get this, they even plussed his idea. They're calling it the Kyle Sheely Mealy. You get to go in. And by the way, Come and Go said, "So we'd like to talk to you. What would be in a Kyle Sheely meal?" And Kyle Sheely DM'd them back saying, "Well, it could be a sandwich. It could be pizza." And Come and Go said, "What if it's a pizza sandwich?" So you go in to Come and Go, and supposedly they've already got it in stores. I don't know because we don't have Come and Goes in my area,
Yeah.
but you can go in and get the Kyle Sheely Mealy, which is a 2 pieces of pizza put together like a sandwich and a Red Bull. And you, put it this way, Red Bull and Come and Go got so interested in Kyle Sheely because people were telling him that there's a line of people at Come and Go taking a photo with them in front of the Kyle Sheely thing that he
Did he
created.
already have a big following on TikTok?
Yeah, he had a big following, but it
Okay.
just went
It went
kaboom.
crazy.
So
Wow.
his audience, and this goes back to the whole idea of you got to build your audience. The audience was there and primed to take off. It's like
Yeah.
NASA, they've got the launch pad. The launch pad is your audience. You light the right rocket off that launch pad, it's going
It's,
to be that launch pad times 10.
yeah.
And that's what happened. And now, you got major brands Come and Go and Red Bull now associated with this guy. Which came first? Audience.
Audience. I
But
love it.
before that came the desire to create an audience. And that's key because here's the thing, it's like me playing in that coffee shop waiting to be discovered. I'll get kicked out of the coffee shop if I don't bring in an audience, even if that audience is 10 people who buy a cup of coffee. That's like, well, that's 10 more cups than we would have had if he wasn't here. So I guess he's valuable. Imagine that all of a sudden I'm bringing in 50 people a show. That becomes 75 people a show. That becomes 100 people a show. All of a sudden they're going, wait a minute, we've got 5 other stores. Do you want to play at those stores? And, and
Uh,
that's how Brandy Carlisle did it. going all the way back to the first story we talked about on this podcast. You know, you have to want to build an audience, and it takes some time. Pro athletes, you already have an
You
audience.
got a head start. Yeah, exactly.
You got a huge head start. All you have to do is start letting people know how and why they should connect with you.
Yeah.
So the big part is, why should I connect with you? Well, I give you pro tips on what it's to do the business of being a pro. That'd be kind of interesting. Do you know how many amateur pro wannabe athletes there are in this country?
Yeah.
Um, just about everybody who has an X and a Y chromosome, you know, wishes they could be a pro athlete. So, and business is something they relate to. So if all of a sudden you became, here's a pro athlete business tip of the week or the day or whatever you wanted, whatever the periodicity is, all of a sudden you can start being known for being a pro athlete and giving financial tips, which all lead you to, if you want more, go to the Frugal Athlete podcast or the Frugal Athlete archipelago of islands of various services and engagements and you know, online webinars, whatever you've got
Yeah.
going on. But you're telling people why you should engage with me, how you can engage with me, and you're doing it by being completely true to who you actually are. So,
I love that.
Amobi, you got this platform. You've got both in terms of Frugal Athlete, but you also have this platform in the form of where are you now? You're in Texas, right?
I was in Texas, but I'm back in California now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to grow that based on who you are, where you are. So really, this is about you getting very nichey. You know, if you're a riches in the niches guy, are you a Pat
Yeah.
Flynn fan? The
Yeah,
frugal.
Pat Flynn, Blue Ocean Strategy,
Oh yeah.
all that.
Well, it's all true, man.
Yeah.
If the more nichey you get, the more niche you get, the more itchy those riches are in getting in your pocket.
I
So,
love it.
and I love that idea of a pro athlete's business school almost, or
Yeah.
a pro athlete's point of view on the business of being an athlete. That's an interesting story that I don't hear being told a lot. You could
Yeah.
own that by getting out there and demonstrating that. And again, audience comes first. And you can
No.
only get an audience by giving, 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 giving. And when you're sick of giving, give some more. The other thing I want to say is when you're
When you
tired of
give, you
saying the same
receive.
thing over and over again, too bad. You have to say it over and
Over
over
and over
again.
again.
Meaning the story you told about the 30 for 30
Broke documentary. Yep.
the broke thing
Mm-hmm.
and the facts associated with it. NFL, 3-4 years, whatever. You should be saying that at least twice a day, one place or another.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're saying, why should you care? Because all those pro athletes you love, 60% of them are going to be flat broke. And that's a shame. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
You could be the Susie Orman of pro athletes' finances.
That's the
You
plan.
just,
We'll see. We'll see.
well,
Hopefully.
you know, you gotta,
Yeah.
hey, you gotta see it to be it, right?
That's true.
So you've got to visualize this, and it's already based on who you are, right? You didn't pick this because, a lucrative area for me to spend my time and effort is on pro athletes' finances. You had an interest, probably a very personal interest, right?
Yeah,
And
I saw the documentary. I was like, yeah, I gotta find athletes that I could use as role models, and that's kind of how it happened.
yeah, well, guess what? If you had that point of view about that, a whole lot of other people do too. Because here's the thing I've learned. If I think I have a completely unique idea, I then remind myself that no, there's probably at least 500,000 people who have the same exact idea at the same time, but none of them do anything with it.
None of
So
them
I'm going to
execute.
grab it and go with it.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? I really appreciate you making the time. Once again, DP Knudten. We're gonna have your nonfiction brand book in our show notes. Make sure you guys get it. As you can see, this was a masterclass on everything around personal branding. But where can people find you if they want to connect with you, and any last closing words?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd love to give your audience the opportunity to go grab some free downloadable PDFs, 3 separate worksheets that can be a start on building that foundation of a personal brand that is completely true, completely you. But also, 2 of those worksheets are dedicated to specific tactical executional things you can do on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media channels. And they're very specific. I'll just say what they are, and you can go check those out. One is called a thing called Learn to Love the Like Plus. It's about turning comment sections on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever into a conversation with the people you want to connect with. So check that out. The Learn to Love the Like Plus worksheet. The other one is a concept I call the Unselfish Selfie. It's about taking selfies and turning it around from being all about you and to being all about them, meaning the people you're taking the selfie with. Now, again, you're in the photo, but you're shining the spotlight on them, because here's the thing about spotlights. If you shine it on them, it's going to reflect back on you. And if you make them look great, you'll look good. And that's the important thing. So you can get all 3 of those worksheets at nonfictionbrand.com/gift, GIFT. And those are completely free. You don't even have to sign up for my email list. Again, that's nonfictionbrand.com/gift. That's a great place to go to also connect with me, nonfictionbrand.com. You can find out the concepts involved with nonfiction branding, learn more about me as a presenter and clinician, workshop leader, facilitator, stuff like that. And you basically poke around and you'll figure out everything about me at nonfictionbrand.com.
Thank you so much. We're definitely going to have all that stuff in the description. Make sure you guys definitely link, whether it's the free downloadables or the book. You will learn a lot, just like I have learned today. Niche down, guys. As athletes, niche down. There's money to be made. There's content to be made. There's audiences to grow. And like we all know, leverage the now. As athletes, we only have so long. So BP, I think this is the start of something very refreshing. I'm glad to have able to have you on the podcast, and look forward to future conversations.
Well, thank you, Amobi, and good luck to everybody listening.
No, most definitely.